Welcome to my Rosewater Cottage studio. I am working on her story. It has finally come, and she's been waiting a long time, and I know some of you have too as well. I've turned my lamp off. It's bright. This is what I have to have it on this bright so I can see, and I have to have my readers on top of my contacts and a second cup of coffee in my British Birds mug. And so I thought the very first picture, the very first illustration needed to be of her. I think it was one of the first photos I took. It was the second photo I took of her. I had taken her to school with me to speak to a class of future educators and about writing books and my characters, and I had a whole picnic basket full. The picnic basket was up there, but now it's went on a picnic. But I had all my characters, and she'd gone to school with me to the high school, and they didn't laugh me out of the school, and this was before I went back to teaching, and so it was my my introduction to a new generation of high schoolers, and I was quite impressed that there were some really great kids there. And so at the end of that day, I had taken a picture, kind of like me and my bear, and we survived, and we went to school, and they let me tell my stories. The second picture was when I decided she needed to have her little gown. If we were going to be going out, it needed to be laundered. And so I had set her, propped her up on my big mushy bed with the big mushy pillows, and she was just sitting there with her little crown on her head, just kind of looking off, and I thought it was so cute. And I took a picture, and the post was about waiting. And sometimes you're waiting for your outfit to dry, because I'd hung it up in the laundry room to dry, and with my sweet little blouse that I'd worn, so our little outfits were hanging there together. And I think I took a picture of that too, because it was so sweet. But I thought the post had been about waiting, and sometimes you're waiting on your outfit to dry, and sometimes you're waiting for a baby to be born, sometimes you're waiting for the end of a season, and at that point I was alluding to my son. My oldest son was at boot camp for National Guard, and his wife was expecting a baby. We couldn't tell about that, so there were so many things I couldn't tell, but I wanted to document that time. And so it was a photo of really old bear just sitting there waiting. She didn't have any clothes on, just her crown. So that's what I've worked on today, and I want to show you. And I had sketched this, and I tried to show this the other day when I was having my coffee chat with Jen, with this series that we do with each other on Wednesdays, and she said it's so light I can't see. And so, but that was my coming back to the art table and picking up the pencil again, this poor pencil that has been through it, and my eraser, because you have to erase, because I draw so tiny. So I thought what made me want to get on here and tell you some extra things, because I know Jen and I chat about a lot of things. There's so many projects going on. And so I thought maybe I would take this time to share, each of these little IGTV things, series, share a little something that goes into a little bit more of maybe something she touched on and you don't know the whole story about that. Or she said, oh, the thing that caught my ear when she said, she loved how I always framed my pictures with a little cartouche. And it's what it is. And she said, it's like you're framing it. It's like it's each illustration its own little piece of artwork. And I thought I don't think I told her the story of what that is. When we moved to our little cottage, our Rosewater cottage back in Franklin, when my daughter was coming to visit for the first time, we'd gotten moved in, and she was going to come and visit. And she said, when she got there, she said, well, Mama, you know how I knew it was your house? And I said, how? Besides the address on. She said, you have grapevine wreaths everywhere. I think I had one hanging on the gate and one on the front door, and I have them. I've always loved grapevine wreaths. I even have one hanging on the studio door. So I thought that was, and because I had loved Tasha Tudor, and she'd always framed her illustrations. I'm gonna keep hitting this. Let me move this ugly. She had she had always framed them, and little flowers or little things inside that were just so detailed. So it was kind of a nod to her inspiration, just framing it, but that it was something that was so very unique. I don't know if it's a unique thing, but something that I love so much was my grapevine wreaths and having one hanging on the door of every home where I've lived. And so that's what frames each little illustration. And then the other thing that I love about being able to tell a story or illustrate my stories is that I can add in things that will remind me of where we lived. We had lived here in Pleasant View before, in the home that Tim and his late wife had built, and she had designed it, and these Xavier and Sophia are her grandchildren, and I wanted them in these storybooks about these little mice. I wanted to remember that home we lived in, and that was the home their grandmother Nancy had designed. And then when we moved to Rosewater Cottage, that was really our first, to have our home and it be us as a united effort, as a couple and a partnership. And so I have included in this picture, there was some architecture piece that we had in our master bedroom there at our home in the cottage. And so I can add that in to this picture, and I can remember that. And so there's lots of stories behind the stories, and I know there's just not enough hours in the day to tell that in other settings. So I thought maybe I would start sharing a little bit here and there of some of these stories, of some of these things that you might wonder about. And if there's anything that you've heard us talk about and you say, well, could you tell a little bit more about that, or where did that come from? Send that in a message, and I would love to share it with you. Yes, baby, I'm on.
There's a package.
Okay, thank you.
That was on the porch, and it says it's to me.
Is it to you? Okay, we'll help it in just a minute, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'm excited for you.
I'll sit here.
Okay, can you close my door? Thank you. No, come on out. I'm doing a, okay, so she's gonna go sit on the porch. This is our world. So when I can get up here and get some work done, you see why it's an event. I'm going to let you go, and as you think of things that you want to know about, let me know. Just write a little message, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.